guest for this segment of MS Relief launch event, Unleash the Joy, I'm happy to say, is Stuart Schlossman. Stuart is the president and founder of MS Views and News, and editor of Stu's Views and MS News, a weekly e-newsletter that is circulated to over 90 countries across the internet. Imagine what an impact you've made, Stuart. Stuart's MS Views and News has organized and hosted multiple sclerosis workshops with education grants that he's received by petitioning various pharmaceutical companies. Stuart also makes podcasts, which are webcasts, providing educational information about the disease. He tends to thousands on Facebook and is linked to hundreds of MS bloggers, MS websites, and other multiple sclerosis organizations across the net. You can hear Stuart once a month on Internet Blog Talk Radio at blogtalkradio.com/multiple sclerosis-unplugged. Whoa. In addition to being a leader in the MS community, Stuart is also an MS patient and a known patient advocate. When he was diagnosed in 1998, there was a shortage of access to information regarding this disease. Wow, Stuart, when I first, before we start chatting, I just want to acknowledge you for the astounding amount of presence that you have generated online over the past 10 to 15 years. You clearly got started with your work way back when most people hadn't even heard of the internet or had an internet connection, never mind being able to grasp how powerful the internet would be in their lives in less than 5 years. Congratulations.
And I want to say, Stu, before you start sharing your story, I want to say I think it is a perfect example for all of us that we need to step in and find the answers to our questions. And there is so much news out there online. And so that's what I want to hear from you first about is how you did, how you found and what your purpose was in creating MS Views and News, Views and MS News.
Well, like Trish was starting to read, is that when I was first diagnosed, I found that I really couldn't find the information out on the internet. It wasn't just readily available. And of course, back then you didn't have Facebook, and you didn't have Twitter, and you didn't have LinkedIn or MySpace or many of the other things that became social networking. So the only way to really communicate was, even we had cell phones, but we didn't have good cell phones back then. You didn't have smartphones. Remember, technology was much different 10 years ago than it is now, and I was diagnosed in the late 90s. The internet was there, but a lot of people were afraid of it. A lot of people are still afraid of it, but I like to investigate. I like to do my research. And so I just started searching a lot of the things that was wrong with me personally, and then sharing it with a local support group that I was part of. Sorry if I lose my voice, but I have dysphonia also, and that's from talking too much, which happens on a regular basis. So regardless, I started looking for the information and then giving it to people in our support group, and then doing like a daily emailing to people that I know here in South Florida. And what started off with me just sending information to about 15 people every day, then grew to 25, grew to 50. Support group leaders around the state of Florida started finding out about what I was doing. They started asking for the information to be sent to them so they could give it to their people in their groups. People around the country started finding out about me. We created what at that time was a blog. Not that long ago. It was back in the early 2000s. I created a blog. It was introduced to me. I had no idea what a blog was at that time. So we started creating a place to post all these stories. And that was a different post, a different blogging post that I use these days, but it was still very effective. Then somebody told me, because of the amount of information that I was providing every single day, maybe I should just do something once a week instead and just start sending that out. And of course, as the internet grew, so did we. So did MS Views and News, or Stu's Views and MS News. In fact, the original newsletter was called Stu's Views and MS Related News. And it became a great sourcing of information that we then tied in and brought in a lot of the MS organization by posting their linkage to our site, which helped us grow in Google, the Google numbers as well. We were receiving a lot of information from these other MS organizations, and the more that they were able to give to me, the more we were able to put out there. And so we grew and grew and grew, and we're still growing. Every single day, we get 10 to 20 new people registering for the newsletter, for the website, for the blog, through Facebook, through Twitter, through LinkedIn. I mean, it just comes and comes and comes. And of course, then, you know, we didn't stop with just providing the information via the newsletter. Was in 2008, we decided that we're going to make MS Views and News. So we incorporated. And in 2009, we became a not-for-profit. And in the beginning of 2010, we held our very, very first educational program here in Florida, in South Florida. We did it in Miami, and we did it as a Spanish language program. We want to encompass everybody. We want to bring in the information for all walks of life from anywhere. Now our newsletter is being received from people in 90 countries. A lot of those people don't speak English. And so these are people, though, that do understand English, and they're taking the information that we provide, and they're then translating it to people in their countries, or they're telling them about it. Or it may be doctors in those countries that are receiving the information, because maybe they're getting the information faster from Stu's Views than they're getting it from their own networks. And still, it's a way of providing information. So it feels great to me.
There's just so much information about MS out there now, Stu. It's vital for people to be able to tell the difference between the good information and the bad information. That's where you come in. You've helped people filter out all the noise, and your perspective is so authentic. People can't help but trust what you're bringing to their inbox is of value to them. It's got to be so rewarding for you to be able to use technology like this to connect people with that vital information.
It is, and that's what makes me go forward and do that much more. The emails that I receive from people daily, the Facebook messages, the Twitter messages, the fact that there are organizations such as yours that want to interview me, and this is happening a lot. The fact that there are people that find me off of Facebook, off of Twitter, off of various places, and they want to send information, whether it be for alternative treatments, whether it be for alternative devices, whatever it is that could possibly help an MS patient, I will share. But I don't want to hear from the people that say, Stuart, I have a cure. Because you want to know something? Bullshit. Sorry to say. But if there was one, CNN would be broadcasting it. Okay, CNN would be broadcasting the cure. They would not need me to be doing it. So for all those snake oil salesmen out there that want to say, Stuart, I have a cure for you, or the chiropractors that say, I have the cure, well then again, how come you haven't convinced the National MS Society with this? Or you haven't convinced the medical directors of the world that you have a cure, and why are you coming to me? I don't want to hear from you. I don't have time for the nonsense. I only have time for the fact. Say that again?
I completely agree with you, Stuart. I have a total aversion for anybody who claims to have a cure for MS. I believe there are many treatments, there are many modalities, there are many options out there that we can explore to maximize the body's ability to cope with the MS. For example, my chiropractic. I don't believe chiropractic will ever cure me of MS, but because chiropractic is maintenance for the central nervous system and MS is a disease of the central nervous system, I firmly believe that being able to maximize my central nervous system's ability to cope with the disease better enables me to achieve my optimal health.
But we all want to believe that that one cure is going to work for us. And so we will all reach out and grab things that work for somebody. Maybe they'll work for me. Maybe it will help me. And
I already have the cure. I already have my cure. As long as I do for others, as long as I do and want to get up and do, then I don't have time to think about my own illness. I have time to think about my separated shoulder or I don't have separated shoulders, sorry. I have a torn rotator cuff, and I can't move my arm correctly anymore. So I have time to think about that, but I don't have time to think about MS being me. Yes, I go for my monthly infusion, all right? And people ask me, do you think it's helping? I say, well, I'm not getting worse, and that's beneficial for me.
That's helping.
I haven't had a relapse in over 2 years. That's great, because prior to that, I was relapsing every few months. Mm-hmm. Okay, so is it working for me? Well, I have to believe it is. And with that, and with the amount of things that I'm doing for others, I have to stay strong. And, there are many ways that I do speaking engagements also for the people. I speak about self-advocacy and quality of life. I talk to people about being aggressive with their treatments. I speak to people about how they must stay empowered with information. I speak with people about not relying on their family or their doctors, but relying on themselves.
I love it.
Okay, and that's very important.
This is a purpose that you wake up for, and we all need to have a purpose.
Correct. That's why I only sleep 5 hours a night, because I don't have time to sleep. I don't have time to sleep. I only have time to do for others. Okay?
So speaking of how much you sleep, which is not much, Stu, let's talk about what's going on with you right now. What's work look like for you right now? How busy are you really?
I walk into my office every day, which is here, and it's just paper, notes, everything, everywhere. I'm behind by several weeks right now because I have a cluster of 4 programs that are going to be taking place between April, May, and the beginning of June. Education programs, 2 in Miami and 2 in the Orlando area. Okay, we also have a bowl-a-thon coming up in the middle of April as a fundraiser. We're also trying to put together the ideas for programs that we want to do in the middle of June, July, August, September, October, November. So there's just a lot going on. So I speak to people from our board every day. I speak with patients every day, and there's just a lot to do. So
tell me what your physical condition is. Are you walking? Are you using a walker? Yes. How are you getting around?
I used to use a cane prior to my starting the treatment that I'm currently on. And it was after I started using that treatment, it was about 2 months into using that treatment, that I stopped using a walker. But I really don't want to talk about what that I'm on. I'd rather just talk about.
But what you're doing is motivating you to get up, like you said. You have a purpose, a very big purpose, and I love it. And we all need to have a purpose. We all need to have a reason to get up in the morning.
Right. There was, prior to MS, or I shouldn't say prior to MS because I probably had it all my life, but prior to my getting so involved with MS News and News, or prior to my stopping working, my career that I had going for me, I was a salesman. And I did international marketing and sales. And, you always knew that you couldn't take no for an answer. You had to find a way to get the client's account. All right? And what didn't work one day may have worked another day after you regrouped. And so, I use a lot of the same principles now where, yes, you have to be slightly arrogant to be a salesperson. If you want to get an account, you can't just be all smiles and charm. You also have to be, sometimes you have to be a little hardline. You have to be a little abrasive. Well, that was me, and it still is. So, there's a motto that I used at the end of all my speaking engagements, that I was once an arrogant, abrasive, obnoxious salesman. And these days, I'm just an arrogant, abrasive, obnoxious humanitarian. And we just go forward with that. And it seems in every speaking engagement that I do that I have a new audience. And it always brings a good chuckle because people see it in the way that I speak. All right? When I'm talking to them, yes, I'm being obstinate. I'm being strong. I have to be. I do it for myself, and I do it for those around me. Those that care will listen. Of course, there are those that think I'm a jerk, well, or worse, and I really don't care because you can't have 100% of the people out there that like you. We also have, like anybody, have people that are envious of what I'm doing. We have people that maybe are jealous of what I'm doing. Why? Because I've gotten better and maybe they haven't. I've been able to excel and maybe they haven't. But, you know, just look at the President of the United States. He's got his haters. You have haters, you have dislikers, no matter what you do. So we can only hope that we have a lot more people that like me than dislike me, and then we'll always do well.
And it's up. Yes.
So what's next for Stu and Stu's MS views? What do you see? Where do you see yourself on the horizon?
Well, we would like to eventually go national. Right now, we started off MS Views and News with just doing programs locally into South Florida. And last year, we expanded into other portions of Florida. And this year, we're doing other programs still in Northern Florida and Central Florida. And we would like it to go national. We have a lot of people that ask me to do programs in their states. Recently, a person in Tennessee, another one in Alabama, another one in Georgia. We've had people in Minnesota and Michigan ask us to do programs because they're not getting, they hear about the programs or they see about the programs that we're doing in Florida because they go out onto Facebook and onto Twitter. And these people want to know why you can't do programs the same as what we're doing down here, but to do it in their states. They're not getting that form of education program. We're drawing an average of 70 people per program, which is great. The pharmaceutical people would like to have that kind of attendance at their programs, and they don't get it. And we're getting it because we always have a neurologist at each one of our programs, and we also bring in somebody like a urologist or a psychologist to also speak, or an occupational therapist, or a physical therapist, or something. It's not just all about neurology. Let's get into symptom management, and that's what we do. All right, so these are the types of programs that are wanted all across the United States, and I'm sure outside the country as well. It has to be outside the country because I have people in Mexico and people in Puerto Rico asking us to go there too. But this takes funding, and it's going to take more than just a couple of people doing it. You know, it's our organization needs to grow. We need more volunteers, and we need people to work with us on writing grants to get the funding to do these programs. And, you know, a lot of people are upset with me that we do so much with pharmaceutical companies. Well, the bottom line is, people, who else is going to give us the money to do these things? The pharmaceutical companies are backing the education that we're providing. And you should be happy that they're doing that and not just wanting to sell their medications.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. That's wonderful that you're getting the support of the pharmaceutical companies to back the education events. Those who have, it's good that they do. Thank you so much.
They provide restricted and unrestricted.
But, so are these grants unrestricted, as in, are your speakers allowed to cover whatever topics they want to cover, or do they get any direction from the drug companies because they're funding the events?
No. When we're hosting the program, the doctors that are speaking from their own accord. They get to speak liberally, however they want to talk, whatever they want to speak about, as long as they're on topic of the topic that I give them. They can talk about whatever they want, but they're always fair. They are always fair and balanced, just as I am when I speak. We have to be, you know. There's positives and negatives to everything in life, and we have to portray the positives and negatives, and it's better to stay very well balanced. You know, we get the we get education dollars from whomever I apply with, not every time, but I try to spread it out because I don't want to be just focused on education dollars coming to me from just one company. We want people to see that we're working with everybody and we're using as many doctors as we can to show the variances with everything. But again, with the programs that we provide, the neurologist or anybody else is not needing to use a slide deck that they would use if they're speaking specifically for that company. I asked them to create their own slideshow. All right, and that's what they use.
And finally, Stu, could you tell us about your radio show? I understand you're live on Blog Talk Radio once a month.
Really quickly, we've only got 1 minute left.
Okay, Blog Talk Radio is not just me. I have a co-host, Deanna Kirkpatrick. She's up there in Seattle, Washington. And Deanna and I do the show once a month. It's usually the fourth Wednesday of the month. It's an 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time slot, or if it's 8 p.m. for me, so okay, it's 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And we are usually on the air with a neurologist or somebody that's doing research or patients or whatnot, and we do the show. We have people listening. And again, you can find the information on Facebook, or if you're subscribed to receive our newsletter. If you're registered at our website, msviewsandnews.org, you can get all the information that you want. You can find it all. You can find how to listen to the Blog Talk shows. You can receive our weekly newsletters. In the weekly newsletter, it also gives the resources to every medication, patient service that there is available. So the newsletters are just filled with information, and you can find what you need and be empowered.
And that is what you're all about, empowering people like me, just a regular person with MS, and how to find what we need and learn what we need to know and move forward. And I thank you for the message.
So anytime you want me back on here, I'd be more than happy to be back on here. Get me my own TV show. I would love it. Come on, Montel. I want to do.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stu. This has been such an informative interview. Very inspiring to hear your tale from the beginning of Stu's News and Views to where you're at now with 18,000 subscribers. It's just totally mind-boggling for me. And we're really grateful to you, Linda and I both, for joining us today for this interview in celebration of our launch of MS Relief. And we are here to unleash the joy. Thanks so much. Tune in for the next segment.